All right, welcome. Today we're diving into a really fascinating text that kind of suggests we've been looking for a divine message in all the wrong places. It argues that the biggest truths aren't in ancient books, but in something we live with every single second of our lives. So let's just start with the core idea, the big question this text poses. What if the Creator's message isn't written down? What if it's encoded into the fabric of reality itself? I mean, what if things like gravity, evolution, and chemistry, what if those are the real sacred texts? It's a huge concept, so let's unpack it. So, first up, let's talk about the Creator's silent language. This is all about the foundational idea that the ultimate message isn't spoken, but is found in the quiet, unbreakable laws of nature. The text is basically saying we need to learn a whole new way to listen. So you have to get this. When the source talks about the Creator's words, it doesn't mean some prophecy being shouted from a mountaintop. Nope. It means the fundamental rules that govern everything. We're talking physics formulas, math equations, and the simple everyday laws of cause and effect that totally shape our lives. And here's where it gets really cool. The text draws this direct line between ancient spiritual ideas and modern science. So the Tao, this ancient concept of the way, that's just physics. Divine will, well, that's the predictable result you get from a chemical equation. It's basically an invitation to find what's sacred, not in some supernatural realm, but right here in the world we can actually see and measure. And this leads to a pretty wild conclusion. If the words are just the laws of nature, then who are the real interpreters? According to this text, it's not the mystics or the prophets. It's the scientists, the engineers, the doctors. Really, it's anyone who's dedicated to figuring out how the universe actually works. They're the ones translating the message. Okay, so let's move on and see how this idea builds. If the whole universe runs on these laws, then it means our lives are directly shaped by how well we work with them. This is what the source calls the law of consequence. And the implications of this are just huge. In this way of looking at things, success and happiness aren't just about luck or getting some divine favor. It's about understanding and aligning with the rules of the game. And on the flip side, failure isn't some kind of punishment. It's just the natural result of ignoring cause and effect. It really puts all the accountability right back on us. And the stakes? Well, they go beyond this life. The text talks about two possible afterlives. For people who live by the universal laws, there's this promise of an Elysium world totally free from suffering. But for those who go against them, another world is waiting, where they basically have to face the consequences of everything they did. So after setting up this whole framework that the laws of nature are the message, the source text then does something really bold. It actually tries to translate that message into plain English, as if it's coming directly from the Creator. And right here, the tone just completely changes. It stops explaining the message and starts delivering it in a direct, first-person voice. This is the identity the text gives to the intelligence that's behind all those universal laws. The Creator's core advice, as it's translated here, is surprisingly simple. It's not about big, grand gestures. It's all about your internal focus. It says to seek understanding, to value wisdom way more than stuff, and to just embrace a simple life. The message is clear. True happiness comes from insight, not from having a lot of things. So then the text lays out a very specific blueprint for how to actually live in sync with these universal laws. It's all broken down into clear, practical rules for how you should act and think. Let's take a look. The blueprint kicks off with things to avoid. A lot of these are what you'd expect, right? No violence, no stealing, no greed. But the list also digs into our inner world, things like jealousy and resentment. It suggests these feelings are just as out of sync with the universe as any physical act. It even warns against something as modern-sounding as blindly chasing fads. And on the flip side, here are the things to embrace. And notice how they all connect back to this theme of alignment and harmony, being humble, loving nature, and respecting the cycles of life by caring for both the young and the old. It even suggests that following society's laws is a way to practice respecting the bigger universal laws. Now, here's where the source makes a really crucial and powerful distinction. It separates the universal laws, which it says are cosmic, from organized religions, which it defines as being created entirely by humans. This separation is totally fundamental to its whole philosophy. And then the text gives this super direct, modern-sounding warning.
It addresses overpopulation as a violation of natural balance. It frames potential disasters not as some random punishment, but as a direct consequence of that imbalance. It's a pretty stark message of cause and effect on a global scale.
This principle of reciprocity is absolutely central to the message. The relationship being described here isn't like a doting parent, but more like a mirror. Your own effort is the key. The source really emphasizes self-reliance with that line, help yourselves and I will help you. The power and the responsibility is put right on the individual. All right, in our final section, the text just zooms way out. It asks us to broaden our perspective way beyond our immediate reality and to start thinking about our place in the universe from a more cosmic, philosophical point of view. And finally, the text offers this fascinating piece of advice. It's basically an instruction to think beyond the limits of our everyday perception. The idea here is that reality is so much more complex than what we can see, and if our mindset is limited, we'll just never be able to grasp the bigger picture. The source wraps everything up with this short, reflective poem. It's really the perfect metaphor for the entire philosophy we've just explored. Expand your perspective, open your mind, and a whole new kind of clarity, a new kind of life can just rush right in. So we'll leave you with this final thought. If we take the premise of this text seriously, that the rules of the universe are a form of communication, what message do you see in the patterns of your own life and the world around you? What are the laws of nature telling you? Thanks for diving in with us on this.